The Weaver's Testament, Episode 7, The Scourge of Heaven, Prologue, The Harvest of Sin. A garden cannot tolerate a blight. It must be purged, or it will perish. Final entry in the log of Geode King Mirrodin. Aethelgard is no longer a refuge. It is a crucible. The birth of the Nephilim has fractured the land itself, their chaotic energies causing storms of raw magic and twisting the vibrant flora into predatory horrors. The initial hope of the refugees has curdled into fear, and the schism between stewards and ascendants has hardened into open hostility. The stage is set for a final, divine judgment. Chapter 1. The Wrath of the Aethel. The native Aethel, who have watched the corruption of their world with silent horror, can no longer stand idle. They are not a warrior race, but their connection to Aethelgard is absolute. Led by their spiritual leader, the voice of the Grove, they enact an ancient rite. They do not raise swords, but their voices in a harmonic, earth-shaking chant. The land itself answers. The very soil rejects the outsiders' settlements. Roots erupt to tear down walls, and the glowing rivers shift their courses, cutting off the ascendant's stronghold. The Aethel are not attacking the people. They are excising a tumor, using the world as their scalpel. Chapter 2. The Price of Power. Within the Ascendant's mountain fortress, Viserion's dream of godhood is unraveling. The soul stone they mine and use to amplify their power is now turning against them. Prolonged exposure is causing madness, their bodies slowly petrifying into crystalline statues, their souls trapped within, screaming silently. Serya watches in horror as the man she loved becomes a paranoid tyrant, his features hardening not with resolve, but with literal, unfeeling crystal. Sariel appears to him, his form now more shadow than substance. "A minor price for immortality, my king," he whispers, but the mockery is plain. Viserion finally sees the trap. He sought to wield power, but became the weapon himself. Chapter 3. The Burden of the Nephilim. Lyra, living as an outcast with her son Kaedon, witnesses the chaos her actions have unleashed. The other Nephilim children, unable to control their powers, are becoming living catastrophes. One child's nightmare manifests as a vortex of shadow that consumes an entire forest grove. Another's joy causes a tidal wave in a once placid lake. Kaedon, now a youth with the mind of a seasoned general, looks upon the suffering without pity. "They are weak, mother," he says, his voice chillingly calm. "They feel. We must only will." He sees the conflict not as a tragedy, but as an opportunity for his kind to inherit the ashes. Chapter 4. The Trumpets Call. As the chaos peaks, the sky above Aethelgard tears open. It is not a physical rift, but a spiritual one, a wound in the fabric of reality. From it descends Gabriel, no longer a lone herald, but the commander of a host of light, beings of pure, terrifying righteousness. Their forms are blinding, their purpose absolute. Gabriel's voice echoes across the entire continent, a sound that breaks glass and shatters stone. "The judgment is upon you. The forbidden line shall be severed. The blight shall be burned clean." This is not a war. It is an extermination. Chapter 5. The Scourging. The host of light moves with devastating efficiency. They do not fight the Aethel or the stewards who remain in the designated valley. Their sole targets are the Ascendants and the Nephilim. Columns of searing light descend upon the Ascendant fortress, turning soulstone and sinner alike into vapor. The twisted, predatory flora is scoured from the earth by purifying fire. The host hunts the Nephilim children, their ethereal blades severing the unnatural connection of spirit and flesh, returning them to inert matter. Chapter 6. The Final Gambit of a Fallen Angel. Seeing his grand design collapsing, Sariel makes his true move. He does not seek to save his children or his followers. He seeks to claim the ultimate prize, the Axis Mundi, the silver tree at the heart of the world. If he can corrupt its core, all of Aethelgard will fall into shadow, and he will become its dark god. He manipulates Kaedon, convincing the powerful Nephilim that the tree is the source of the judgment, and that by claiming it, he can save his kind. Father and son, both creatures of pride and power, marched together toward the valley for a final blasphemous assault. Chapter 7. The Last Stand of the Stewards. Kaelen, Lyra, and the remaining stewards, joined by a remorseful Aethelgard Vechlon and her tide singers, make their stand at the foot of the Axis Mundi. They are not fighting for victory, but for redemption. They know they cannot defeat the host or Serya. They can only try to mitigate the damage their people have caused. The battle is a maelstrom of elemental magic, biomantic constructs, and the pure, terrifying power of the divine. Kaelen's thorn guard is decimated. Lyra, in a final act of sacrifice, uses every ounce of her being to create a wall of living thorns to block Kaedon's path, forcing him to confront her. Chapter 8. The Severing. Kaedon stands before his mother, his power dwarfing hers. "Step aside," he commands, his voice cold. "You are my son," Lyra weeps, not with fear but with grief. "And my greatest failure. I desired knowledge, and I created a monster who feels nothing." For a fleeting instant, a crack appears in Kaedon's icy demeanor, a spark of the human son he could have been. It is enough. In that moment of hesitation, a spear of light from the host, meant for him, pierces through Lyra's protective wall. She throws herself in front of it, taking the full force of the divine judgment meant for her child. She dies, unmade in a flash of light, her final act saving the son she could not redeem. Chapter 9. The Silence. The death of Lyra seems to break the fever. The host of light, its primary task of purging the great blights complete, begins to withdraw. The light fades from the rift in the sky, which stitches itself closed. Serya, seeing his vessel Kaedon broken and the divine attention waning, vanishes with a snarl of frustration, his grand ambition thwarted. The scourging is over. The landscape is scarred and smoldering. The ascendants are gone. The Nephilim are no more. The proud fleet of refugees is a memory. The survivors, a fraction of their original number, are left amidst the ruins of their second chance. Chapter X. The Crystalline Tyrant. Within the heart of the Ascendant Fortress, the air hummed with a dissonant frequency. Viserion's transformation was nearing completion. Patches of his skin had hardened into facets of smoky soulstone, glittering with trapped light. His movements were becoming jerky, less human. The once proud prince was now a monument to his own ambition, his thoughts slowing, calcifying into a single burning imperative: control. Serya stood before him in their throne room, a cavern carved from the mountain and inlaid with pulsating crystals. "Viserion, look at what you've become," she pleaded, her voice echoing in the dead space. "This isn't power, it's a prison. We have to leave this place." His head turned, the sound of grinding stone. "Leave?" The word was a low rumble. "This is our kingdom, Serya, forged from my will. The power is ours to command." He extended a hand, now more crystal than flesh, and a shard of soulstone tore itself from the wall, hovering menacingly. "Even the angels fear our strength." It was then that the first trumpet blast from Gabriel's host shook the mountain. Cracks spiderwebbed across the ceiling. The crystals in the walls flared violently, and the agonized screams of ascendants trapped in their own petrified bodies became a deafening chorus. Serya watched in horror as one of their own lords, mid-sentence, froze solid, his face a mask of crystalline terror. Viserion roared, a sound of breaking glass and fury. "They dare?" He drew Vainsong, but the humming blade now seemed dull against the blinding radiance pouring through the fortress gates. Serya made her choice. As Viserion charged toward the light, a slave to Serial's final command, she did not follow. She turned and ran, not from the angels, but from the ghost of the man she loved, leaving the crystalline tyrant to face his divine judgment alone. Chapter 11. The Unmaking of Kaedon. The confrontation between mother and son was a clash of two worlds. Kaedon, a being of pure, arrogant will, faced Lyra, whose power was born of connection and sacrifice. "You cannot stop me, mother," Kaedon stated, his voice flat. He gestured, and the very earth at Lyra's feet turned to grasping black tendrils. The tree's power will grant our kind dominion. We will no longer be outcasts. We will be gods. Lyra did not attack. She defended, weaving shields of living wood and shimmering spores. Godhood built on pride is a lie, my son. The same lie that poisoned your father's heart. It only ends in solitude. With every defensive spell, she poured not just her magic, but her memories into the air around them. Images of his first steps, his childhood laughter, the love she had felt before the fall. Kaedon's assaults were brutal, ripping through her defenses. A shard of corrupted energy sliced her arm, but she did not cry out. "I feel your pain," he said, a flicker of confusion in his ancient eyes. "It is inefficient. A weakness." "It is what makes us human," she gasped, her strength waning. "It is what your father could never understand." It was in that moment, as the spear of light from the host descended, that Kaedon saw the truth. He saw the cold, manipulative smirk on Serial's face as the fallen angel used him as a distraction. He saw the absolute, unforgiving purity of the divine judgment, and in his mother's eyes, he did not see condemnation, but a love so profound it was willing to be annihilated for him. As Lyra threw herself in the path of the light, Kaedon's perfect, willful control shattered. A raw, human scream was torn from his throat. "Mother!" The light consumed her, unmade her thread from the tapestry. But in her final act, she had accomplished what all the host's power could not. She had seared a human soul back into her son. The divine energy washed over him, but it found no demonic entity to purge, only a broken, repentant young man. It did not unmake him. It unmade the part of him that was Serial, leaving him naked, mortal, and utterly, devastatingly alone. Chapter 12. The Cost of Sanctuary. The scourging ended, not with a climactic clash, but with a terrible, ringing silence. The host of light faded, their purpose fulfilled. The survivors emerged from their hiding places like ghosts. Kaelen stood amidst the ruins of Thornhold's outpost. The great, grown walls were splintered and burned. Many of his ironwood sentinels had sacrificed themselves, becoming one with the forest in a final, desperate act of biomancy to shield the stewards. He looked at the root heart, which now pulsed with a slow, pained rhythm. They had survived, but the cost was etched on every face and scarred into the land. Aethelgard Velon approached, her sea silk robes torn, her face smudged with ash. "The fleet is gone," she said, her voice hollow, "burned in the harbors or shattered by the quakes. We are here. There is no going back." Together, Kaelen and the surviving stewards, along with the remnants of the sun-scoured nomads and Velon's people, began the grim work of salvaging. They were not building a kingdom anymore. They were building a survival. The Ethel watched from a distance, their stance no longer hostile, but not welcoming. A line of trust had been severed, and it would take generations to mend. It was a new beginning, but one born from absolute ruin. The pride of the old world had been scoured away by fire and light, leaving only the bare, essential will to live. The garden had been purged. Now, the long, slow work of tending to the scars would begin. Epilogue. A bitter soil, years later. A small, humble settlement exists in the shadow of the Axis Mundi. The Ethel tolerate them, but the easy harmony is gone forever. Kaelen rules this remnant, a king of ashes, his connection to the root heart a constant, painful reminder of all that was lost. Viserion and Serya are gone, their fate unknown, consumed by the crystal or the light. On the outskirts of the settlement, a single figure tends a lone, unmarked grave. It is Kaedon. Stripped of his demonic power by his mother's sacrifice and the scourging, he is now just a man, burdened with a soul and a memory too heavy to bear. He plants a single, ordinary seed on the grave. It is the first thing he has ever tried to create, rather than dominate. The camera pulls back, showing the small, struggling settlement against the vast, healing beauty of Aethelgard. The weaver's voice, silent for so long, returns one last time, not as a whisper, but as a somber statement of fact. The thread, is cut. The cloth is mended, but the scar remains. The pattern continues.